for the goblet. Yosef sent, right, the person, right, his son, really, Menashe, to go check tell him that somebody stole the goblet from Yosef, who was the viceroy, and then they checked from the highest, and they went all the way to the lowest till they found the goblet in Benjamin's bag. So it says they checked in the biggest, checking, okay, doesn't say a light of a candle there, till they bring from Tzfanya. And then right after that, they bring another verse. Ner Hashem nishmas Adam. The candle of God is the soul of man. Weird series of verses, okay? But just to focus on Tzfanya. Now, so he says that in the end of days, when God was going to bring the world to justice, there's going to be a search conducted in Jerusalem with candles. So all of the Hasidic commentaries, and I heard this from Rabbi Weinberger, that he says that really when you search for something, it means usually something's missing. Usually when most people look, right? Most of the time, they're looking because something's missing. My car keys, whatever it is, okay? Very rarely you do a search and destroy, even though here it seems to be it's a search and destroy. But most times people are checking because there's something missing. So they all comment that the Bedika, the searching for leaven, is also searching for something missing. Actually, really what it is, it's the Yerushalayim, the Jerusalem, that is in our hearts. It's really, what we're really searching for is the deepest part of our souls that we're doing an actual search for. The strange thing is, though, is what is it? We're looking for chametz. Wait a minute. So the idea here is, the concept is this. Usually, wherever there's a klipa, wherever there's a shell, you'll find light. In other words, usually always a fruit is surrounded by a shell. We call it a klipa. It's a known concept in Kabbalistic doctrine. So usually, yes, we are searching for something deep. But before we get to that depth of our soul, the deep places, the place where really we can access an unbelievable connection to God, there's a covering first. We have to find the covering. So let's look at, in general, Yerushalayim. It's a holy city. It's so holy. Yerushalayim has a klipa around it. It does. You know where the klipa is? It's very easy to see the klipa in Jerusalem, right? You know, in order to build, I remember being last year, I was in Beitar Elite, and they were about to build new buildings, and the President of the United States stopped the building. People paid money. They put money down. They have to pay mortgages on a monthly basis. Stopped it. Mali Adumim the same. We need permission from the world in order to build in our own land. An unbelievable thing. That is called a klipa. Okay? That is called a shell. That is called an obstacle. And then you can drive around and you can see all the klipas, but they're easy to see. They got different license plates. Yishmael has different license plates. Hopefully. Right? They're easy to spot, the klipa. There's a mosque covering the dome of the rock. Easy klipa to see. It's easy. Doesn't take much. However, what we're doing on the night of the 14th, we're searching in our hearts. You have to find the klipa that's in our hearts. You have to find the chametz in your hearts. That's what it's about. Because within that, until you discover that and destroy it, only then can you access what's inside the fruit. Can you access your soul, the depth of your soul. And this is all part of the Pesach process. Okay? So we're searching for Jerusalem within ourselves, the hidden inner aspect of the soul. Right? There's a Beit HaMikdash in every Jew. However, it's being covered with a mosque.
That's really well put.
Okay? So there's chametz that surrounds our neshama. Okay? We have a neshama, an unbelievable neshama, but there's chametz. It's surrounded by chametz. Not so easy to recognize. So now we have to do a little bit of an investigation into what is chametz. Now everybody knows the definition of chametz. Leaven, okay. But I heard something interesting. I almost like it hit me like a ton of bricks. When you take wheat or any of the 5 grains, and water hits it, right? So if it's left unattended, right? If you don't do anything with it in a certain amount of time, it becomes chametz. When I heard that, I was just, whoa. Because we spoke a little bit last week about chametz. Chametz is, we said it's machshavot zarot. It's strange thoughts, outside thoughts, right? They try to get into your mind. The Yetzer Hara, okay? So here is there's many levels of the evil inclination. Chametz, this is a very specific one. It's unbelievably gewaltig. So if it's left unattended, and believe me, it hit me because there's so many things in my life where I didn't intervene fast enough. Where I could have intervened, but I didn't, and I let it go. Simply, you look at a garden, and there's weeds that are growing in the garden, and if you don't tend to them, they end up being trees. Okay? And I saw this one tree, and I'm like going, what is that? What kind of tree is that? I asked him. He says, that's a weed. I'm like going, Gewalt, it's a tree. Right? So, but the interesting thing about it is once upon a time, as soon as the water hit this wheat, this grain, it's a good thing at that point in time. It's a gewaltic thing. This is really things now you have to get into in ourselves. Our patterns of thinking. That in our past, sometimes things, certain mannerisms, behaviors, certain things, they might have been good at certain times earlier in our lives. But then after a amount of time, it becomes chametz. And not only, it becomes detrimental. It becomes destructive in your life. These behaviors keep going. You got a guy watching TV. Okay, he was a kid at TV watching cartoons. Now he's 40 years old watching TV. It's like all day. It's no longer, not only it's counterproductive, it's destructive. Some people, their whole lives, have carried with us patterns of behaviors, perceptions, ways we act, different ways that people behave, that maybe at one time were okay. Maybe they were useful. I thought about myself. I remember when I was growing up in LA, it worked out for the best. I had a fear, right? I had certain fears, right? And and Baruch Hashem, it did wonders for me because it got me to be so unhappy that I had to leave LA and found myself in Jerusalem and got into a yeshiva. But those fears would, if they would haunt me still, if they would still be with me, they would impede me. They won't allow a person to grow certain fears. And it goes that way with a huge amount of things. This klipa, okay? So it's an interesting thing that time here is a factor. So when we put before the bedika, you put 10. Sometimes people will carefully wrap 10 bits of chametz. They wrap it around, they hide it. And it's fine to do that. But according to halacha, you really have to do a bedika. You can't just check just for those 10 and then you're done. Okay? You got to really do a real check. But the checking is really also in your heart, and this is what you have to do. You have to now do a self-search of yourself to find 10 places where you have perceptions, attitudes, whatever it is, in your life that maybe were good at one time and are no longer useful for you anymore. This is your chametz. This is what you have to burn on Pesach. People actually take it, they write on a note, if they find those patterns.